Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about this large and powerful storm system yet again. This thing is now starting to slowly unravel itself across the United States. Its impacts are being felt across a wide variety of states, and I'll be showing you, those impacts, what those impacts are, where the worst of those impacts can be found, and how long this will last for, and kind of a little bit into the future. What will follow after this system? Will there be a break in the weather in terms of its activity, and there will be a bit more of quiet weather, or will it continue to be active? So I'll be answering, as much of those questions as I can in today's video. And I want to start off by looking at the National Weather Service Weather Ready Nation map. So this is a map that the National Weather Service makes, and it puts all the counties across the United States right on a map. You could see all the states, and they're all divided into counties. And this is supposed to kind of just give viewers a quick glance of what's going on across the country. You can see this right here. That is a red flag warning, so that means there's a fire danger, a fire risk. And you can see that they have expanded this since yesterday. If you recall in yesterday's video, it was mainly across Nebraska that they had those red flag warnings. And as I mentioned, that there's a likely chance that they will expand these because of the strong winds caused by this system. And you can see that they did exactly that. So a lot of these areas are under a fire risk, with strong winds, relatively little rain that this system will actually bring to these areas. You can see there's just a little bit there. There will be a fire risk. Now again, this part of the country is mainly grassland, so the fires aren't as I guess they're not as powerful, if you will, as I say, a forest fire, but they can spread probably even quicker. And you can see that they're obviously concerned about that, and they're probably having already numerous reports about that with little fires and whatnot. Let's go back to the map of the GFS, or not go back. I haven't shown you it yet, but let me show you this model. So notice right now, this is what we are currently looking at. If you were to take a look at the radar, which I don't have currently pulled up, I'll show you in just a little bit. It's a very similar situation. We just have a few showers. It doesn't really look much of like a storm. And the thing is that I guess the storm that we're talking about for our United States and Southern Canada area, it's mainly just a cold front of a massive storm that is further up into Canada, but the cold front itself will kind of turn into a massive storm. So yeah, there's many moving elements to this, and it's definitely an odd system. I've seen these systems before, but it's definitely not like the classic kind of neat storm that we look at, and it makes kind of transmitting some of this information a bit more difficult because it kind of gets a bit messy, the details. So notice we do have those tight lines. If you're wondering what these lines are, that is those are isobars, and what these mean is, well, for people that track the weather, we could see that the winds are pretty strong. We have a strong high pressure here. The winds and all high pressures across the northern hemisphere spin clockwise, like with the clock. So all the winds are spinning around the high pressure in this fashion. And further up here, we have a series of low pressures, and one that is obviously going to be developing with this cold front and this big storm. And so that is ascending the winds like this. So that is funneling a lot of moisture, which is why we're seeing showers develop across the United States here at such a vigorous intensity today, and also why we have those strong winds, and why we had very warm temperatures today. I mean, today there was some ridiculously warm temperatures across a good portion of the United States, and I actually kind of want to show you that. If I could go onto let's just go back to the GFS model. And I want to take a look at a 2 meter temperature shaded, and hopefully, yes, they'll give us a little bit of kind of back in time. So yesterday was already a pretty warm day, but today was especially warm. Notice, so this is what the high temperatures were for today. It was 80 across Minneapolis. For October 10th, 11th, that is very warm, and you can see that that was the case across many of these states. A little bit cooler here where those showers were occurring, and that is again because of all these strong winds. It's kind of like a highway, right? The warm temperatures hop onto these winds, and they shoot way further to the north, and compared to average, it was very, very warm, almost reaching those, kind of topping out charts right there. So very, very, very impressive. And as I put this forward, you'll start seeing the system take advantage of this warm air, unstable, kind of almost humid-like air. And with those strong winds, you can see it doesn't have much of a problem. And you can see it starts developing several waves of rains, showers, precipitation, and do note that we do continue seeing this as we push this into tomorrow. So Wednesday, you can see the cold front. It's pretty slow moving, so a lot of these areas could actually be getting a decent amount of rain, which is actually a good thing because it won't be enough to cause, massive flooding. It will be progressive enough for that, but it will be enough to kind of give a lot of these locations a good amount of rain. And a lot of the United States right now needs rain. It's dry. Some areas obviously way worse than others. Midwest is particularly, Wisconsin and Minnesota have been pretty dry, so you guys won't necessarily see the most in Minnesota, unfortunately. But as we push into the Northeast, there are quite a bit of dry areas with even drought conditions. And you can see this system out of this cold front. We see an area of circulation that develops into late Wednesday and into Thursday. What this means is, well, we see this intensify. We see a lot of cool air behind this as well, which is why it's a cold front. And because of this orientation of the storm, it puts a lot of this precipitation back into the cool air, which means it converts it into snow for a lot of these areas. And you can see Manitoba, Ontario, a lot of these areas are going to be seeing snow showers, lake effect snow off Lake Superior with those northerly winds behind this front. And do note that into Thursday and into Thursday throughout the day and into early Friday, we see this cold front moving on to the northeast. Now you can see that this thing is obviously large. It's very expansive, and obviously the impact, one of them is the very strong rain, or the heavy rain. But the other one is the very cool air behind it. And I guess the third one was the very strong winds and the fire danger that was out ahead of this system. Do note that, well, actually, let me just take you through this kind of this precipitation of the precipitation side of the storm. And notice that by Saturday, its effects are still kind of lingering across the Midwest. We have these showers. It's not going to be anything too significant precipitation-wise, but it's going to feel pretty chilly. And you can see that we're stuck in, there's this area of circulation here, area of cool air that just continues circulating. And what this does is that it takes any precipitation on the southern flank and it can easily shoot it up to the north. And you can see that some models like the GFS not only develop some sort of a system, again, that kind of helps that flow strengthen, but it potentially takes some moisture off the ocean, and you can see it sends it back. So it develops another system that is, you can see, pretty strong. So a very similar system, just further east, potentially developing into next week. Yeah, it almost looks identical, right, compared to this one. A little bit different. It has a more of a snowy side. Yeah, let me go all the way back, and you can see it pretty similar to this one, and kind of does that weird loop backwards, kind of like that drawn out comma. So let me just put this forward and stop it at, well, let's stop it right there and take a look at some of these precipitation amounts that could fall from this system. It's hard to exactly precisely tell where this system will stop being, one storm, and then I guess the rest of it becoming a second storm, because there will be multiple moving pieces. So you can see the precipitation amounts from this first storm will be delivering decent rains across the northeast into southern southeastern Canada. The south will be also experiencing quite a bit of showery activity kind of on the southern flank of this storm, and that's good. Texas is a very bad drought, so a lot of this rain is needed, especially, again, Texas, New Mexico, and whatnot, areas that are drier. And let's take a look now at the temperatures. So 2-meter temperature anomaly. This is a good way of kind of visualizing where we have warm and cool weather. So notice that out ahead of this storm, we had that very, very warm air that recovered from that cool down we had earlier this weekend. And yeah, you can see some of these anomalies are very impressive. Behind it, we did have a cool blast of air, but the thing is that it's a lot more long lasting. It kind of continues circulating, and you can see it's kind of regurgitating this cool air across the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. But on the other hand, there will be very, very warm air across the Northwest, the Southwest, and potentially the South, at least periodically, as the cool air could come in there once in a while and cool things off. But you can see some of these anomalies are just downright very impressive. We're looking at with temperatures like this, with anomalies like this, temperatures will be widespread freezes and frosts well into Kentucky, Missouri. A lot of areas will be seeing a very chilly October. Quite frankly, I don't remember an October that was as cold as this one potentially will be for my area. Last year, I don't think we even saw frost in October. Maybe there was a few. I don't think we saw a single freeze. So this year is going to be completely different, and you can see this cool air maintains itself, right? And again, I won't be going into too much details. There's just too many states to cover with their temperatures, but that's why I like using this map, because it shows you a lot of the United States will be affected by these cooler temperatures. Also, though, by the warmer temperatures that are kind of indirectly caused by the cool air being here, it causes this warm air to pool here and causes it to be intensified. Notice towards the long range, your pattern does break. We see warm air moving into the northeast, just the east, the northwest potentially cooling off, and we could be looking at maybe, again, activity, because earlier I said whether or not the pattern will calm down. It looks as if it will remain active. just in a different kind of style and format. So again, there's that system to the first one I'm talking about, and then we could also be looking at a second one potentially early next week that could also be very powerful and potent. So that is that. Let's take a look at a different model, European. So again, it's a very good model, but let's take a look at it on this website. It shows us the MSLP, precipitation, and frozen, while on this one it just shows us precipitation, so we can't distinguish where snow falls. So again, this is the European. You can see it shows kind of a better picture of how this will actually be put together. You can see showers kind of on the backside of this, a strong cold front, a lot of moisture from the south, and this thing again puts a lot of this moisture back into the cool air, so it does provide quite a bit of snow for Manitoba, Manitoba, Ontario, and you can see the European is a lot more, I guess, bullish with this cold front across the northeast. It shows a powerful system, a lot of rain, and it's relatively slow moving. Not bad news for those areas. Again, a lot of New England is actually in a very dry conditions, so that is pretty good. And you can see that it kind of again keeps this very cool, sheared out, almost upper level series of upper level lows across the Great Lakes, and that just keeps this air cool. It keeps it from warming up. So a lot of nights that are going to be chilly, a lot of kind of showery weather, lake effect, and you can see any moisture that it kind of comes around across the south is easily picked up by this and kind of tossed back into this, I guess, mess, this cauldron. And notice that the GFS, if you recall, it developed that second system early next week. The European does something pretty similar, starts developing, keeps that weak low pressure. It's the one that's kind of in charge of that flow, and it takes advantage of that. It doesn't develop a system as strong as what the GFS does, but it definitely shows activity, and you can see it's very drawn out, a lot of moisture, a lot of showers, so that's going to be something to watch for as well. But again, like the GFS, it starts breaking this pattern, and it looks as if that could mean even probably more activity, just maybe in a different style, different format, maybe more of Pacific moisture as opposed to moisture from the South, Atlantic, and Gulf. So that is definitely something interesting as well. Let's take a look at the total accumulated precipitation from this upcoming system. So again, through Friday and Saturday, again, I'll stop it at Saturday, but this system's going to be a very prolonged event. Notice, right, Michigan, especially areas by the shores, lake effect could bring additional amounts of rain. The Northeast, anywhere from 2, maybe even, pockets of 4 or 5 inches across the Northeast, not out of the question. Notice the West, pretty high and dry, so that's not necessarily the best of news, as the East kind of gets a lot of the activity and you guys don't across the West. And there are a lot of dry areas there that would, you kind of want to use some of that rainfall. I want to show you the total snowfall from the European. It also does show again across, especially southern Canada. Again, Manitoba, there's some actually pretty, decent snowfall amounts here. It's not really enough to call it a snowstorm because a few people live up here that watch my videos. As you get further south, yes, but you can see the amounts are quite substantially less. Some of this will be spreading inevitably into the shores of, Pennsylvania, upstate New York. There will be lake effect, and you can see some amounts even approaching maybe half a foot of snow. It depends, but with that cool airflow and these waters still being warm from the summer, it's not going to take much to produce some lake effect, either in the form of rain or, according to the European, in terms of snow. GFS snowfall accumulations, I just want to show you this. It also does show snow, and you can see it's across very similar areas, some even with stronger, pockets. It does show decent amounts, again, across the UP, pretty impressive snows there, and across potentially maybe with that second system early next week across Quebec and Ontario, so that's definitely something to keep in mind there. I feel like a lot of areas here will be picking up their first snowfall of the year, significant snowfall. And then you can see the GFS, it goes out further than the European and starts showing a very active pattern further towards the west with mountain snow, more typical of what we see during a La Nina pattern. So a lot of activity, guys, and it doesn't seem that despite, this pattern that will last for a while, if it breaks, it seems that activity will continue, just again in a different kind of style. And just like the GFS, the European has very cool air across these areas. The Great Lakes, Midwest, Southern Canada, and has very warm air across the Northwest, Western United States. So notice this is that warm air that was out ahead of it. This is now into Friday, right? So by Saturday, this upcoming weekend, a lot of the areas are done with the system in terms of its precip, but are kind of dealing with the cool weather. You can see at first some of these anomalies appear pretty weak, but as it's kind of, again, regurgitation continues, a lot of this air becomes cooled quite significantly, and we can see some pretty impressive anomalies. Again, the West, though, you're remaining warm, so that's not the best of news. Some of this could be reaching pretty far south into the United States, southeast, so you could also be dealing with some pretty chilly temperatures. And again, that's a pretty impressive cool down right there. but the European, like the GFS, does eventually move that out of there and breaks into a different pattern. That pattern is kind of something we'll talk about later on. It still seems that the models don't have the best of handling on it. Let's go to a model like the HER model. This one goes out to 48 hours, so it gives us a good look. It's more high range, it's more precise. And let's take a glance at, well, I thought zooming in would help, but actually made it just more blurry. Let's just take a look at what it shows. So let me just run this through. You pick your location and see. So it's a little bit of old data. I'm recording this as of 7:30 Eastern time, or sorry, Central time, and this is kind of from 2 p.m. today. So, not old, but definitely not the most recent. And notice that it shows, again, those showers, those storms occurring across Illinois, Michigan, and you can see that a lot of this will be kind of developing over the same areas throughout the night. So there could be areas of ponding. Again, nothing too significant, it appears. And you can see that this really starts developing into a more cohesive system with that area of circulation to the north. You can see these winds pretty strong behind it. That indicates quite a bit of cool air behind that system. And again, some even nasty showers and storms along that cold front could develop. And across the southeast, you can see we have similar kind of events going on there. And as I push this further and further, you can see that this cold front does eventually race into the northeast, and here it starts gathering even more steam as it pretty much shifts or loses a lot of its west to east momentum and starts just going from the south to southwest, kind of to northeast orientation. And this stops as at hour 48. But if you take a look at a model like the NAM 12KM, which goes out a bit further, 84 hours, you can see that it does show that system across the northeast, and again, shows quite a bit of slowdown with it. There could be areas of very heavy rain for quite a good period of time there, and even as early as or as far out as Thursday or Saturday, we could be looking at that cold front still across the northeast. And if you take a look at some of these total precipitation amounts, they would be rather impressive. I do want to also mention, you probably saw it on a map here, it showed quite a bit of snow here across the Dakotas, Minnesota. I wouldn't be too, kind of caught up by that. The NAM always does this. It shows a bit more of this showery activity and a more of a cohesive kind of snowy event. This will probably just be a scattered snow showers here. I don't believe that will actually be a wide snowfall shield, but you can see that the GFS does show some snow here. So a lot of these cities up here may be reporting their first kind of accumulations, traces or whatnot, or a few tenths of an inch of rain. So that is definitely something to note. Canadian model, very good model. I like it, but it's not my preferred one. You can see, let's take a look at what it shows. Again, it shows that system, shows that cold front, so pretty similar to what the other two models show. And it does, you can see, keep that cool air, potentially redeveloping another system into next week. You can see as it does right there. Again, triggering the lake effect, more cool air, more kind of needed rainfall across the northeast. And what comes after that is kind of I guess anyone's guess, but you can see that it also shows a similar pattern, similar footprint of precipitation, and even indeed a similar footprint of snow, showing again the bulk of this towards the north, really north of the U.S. border, and even some of these amounts here across southern Canada that it shows are probably a bit too aggressive. So that is basically all I wanted to show you. Again, check your local National Weather Service offices. Just type in National Weather Service, and if you live in Ohio and whatnot, just click on your kind of general area, and then you could, if you live in Mansfield, just guessing or not guessing, just kind of going wherever I can, click on this just random location, and you can see tomorrow, Wednesday nights, we have a decent amount of showers and rain for you there. And notice that the temperatures behind this today, or tomorrow, 72, and then it quickly cools down with a lot of cool temperatures. First frost, you can see 31 Monday night next week forecasted, so that's going to be that cool air. Let's take a look at northern Illinois. You can see that there's showers right now developing or kind of ongoing across this area. And again, if you take a look at today's temperatures, they were pretty warm. It's 60 right now, and it doesn't appear that we'll be seeing this temperature here for a while, if at all, for the next few weeks. And again, the night's getting pretty frosty, 33 right there Monday night. And let's take a look at the northeast, where some of this heavy rain could be falling. So let's take a look at Boston. Do note that let's see what they have here, because there might actually, it's an excessive rainfall outlook, and you can see that they have a slight chance there for some flooding with that cold front on day 3. And that makes sense. I mean, a lot of these areas could be seeing quite a bit of rainfall. So let's actually go back and click on one of these areas that are more under threat from this heavy rainfall. Let's take a look at, let's say, Syracuse. and see what they show here. Again, warm temperatures out ahead of this, very cool behind us, and you can see they do show that's heavy rain across the Northeast. So obviously take the needed steps that you need to do before this system comes, because we'll make a lot of the soil soggy and whatnot, and it won't dry out that quickly as it is fall and the temperatures aren't as warm. Alright guys, that's basically it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.